I genuinely believe I lived here in my last life, and I believe I died in probably World War II, and was born in 1956 in Philadelphia. That's what I believe, because when I moved here, never wanting to ever move here, by the way, and fate brought me here, but it still happens. I will walk into certain buildings, and I know where things are, and I've never been there before.
Hello, and welcome to Here in L.A. Hollywood Edition. You know what's crazy? This is the 4th episode we've had in just 11 days. And I appreciate all the support that you guys have given us through social media. The flowers, the letters, the pretty girls that have knocked on my door. Hello! Today, we have a very cool guest. We've been talking to some really interesting people. Today, we're going to go to some interesting places. Thanks to our guest, Brian Donnelly, who's a longtime Hollywood tour guide. And don't let his Philly accent fool you. He has been here for 20 years giving tours. And today, he's going to take me around Hollywood, which is incredible. We got to get to it, but just let me just show you just the names of the people that we're going to talk about in this hour. The man who wrote the Wizard of Oz books, the Go-Go's, John Doe, Montgomery Clift, honey, Marilyn Monroe, Janis Joplin in a Mercedes-Benz, Mr. Charles Manson, Mr. Dee Dee Ramone, Mr. Musso and Mr. Frank, Nirvana, Elvis. Who else we got? Harry Houdini's ghost. If that ain't enough for you, I don't know what is. I don't know how we're going to fit all this into one humble podcast, but we're going to try. We're going to squeeze it in. Honey, get the lube. Welcome to Here in L.A. Hello, rock and roll people, kids of all ages. We are on the corner of Yucca and Cherokee with the great Brian Donnelly.
Thank you.
I walk down this area all the time. I've been at this intersection all the time. Beautiful women walking by. It's no big deal. Palm trees, all kinds of trees actually on this street. That's all I see. I see kind of a decrepit building here on the southeast side. What is that, the Canterbury? But when you look at it, you see history. And Brian, that's why I say that you're the great Brian Donnelly, and you're going to tell us a little bit about LA history on this podcast, and so I thank you.
Not only LA history, my neighborhood, which is one of the things I'm really proud of. We live in the middle of people's bucket lists, but I live in dead center of people's bucket lists. People from around the world want to come to Hollywood Boulevard, and I live a block off the boulevard. And it is heaven on earth to me because it is the history that it is. And to stand here, and it's kind of, it's the sad thing is, you look at something, you look at the building, that little apartment building right here, and you know.
We're looking at the southwest corner.
It's called the Yucca something apartments anyway, Yucca Palms or something, Yucca Gardens. But what used to be there was L. Frank Baum's house.
Who's that?
Who wrote The Wizard of Oz. In fact, he wrote the last 4 Wizard of Oz books of the series here. He had an extensive garden going into the back, and when he died here in the house, his final words were, "I finally get to cross the sandy plains," which is one of the, if you ever see a map of Oz, you'll see he's going back to that. But his house was here. He died. Maud lived here till she died in the mid-50s, and then they tore the house down with this piece of crap, for God's sake.
So that used to be a single-family home?
Yes.
So why this corner is important to you?
Well, this corner is important to me for a couple of reasons. One is I live within yards of it, do you really want me to go through the story that I...
Yes!
Okay. Here's the thing about me. For those of you who may not know this, I've been a tour guide I lived here 21 years. I've been a tour guide for 19 of those 21 years in Los Angeles. And a few years ago, I became an epileptic, and I lost everything because you can't drive as an epileptic. And I was having a breakdown one day, and I was standing here at this corner crying my eyes out. And literally all I was looking at the corner, and I was looking at the decrepit building you just mentioned, which is the Canterbury, used to be called the Artiste. And I was looking at that and looking at where L. Frank Baum's house is, and out loud while I'm crying, I said to myself, I know that is the Canterbury. That is where the Go-Go's, the Germs, John Doe used to live. That's where the Go-Go's basically formed, essentially. I know that L. Frank Baum's house used to be here. I know that this is the intersection where Percy Kilbride, who played Pa Kettle in Mom Pa Kettle movies, was hit and killed by a car. Okay, I know all this, and I can't tell anybody. And then I had the realization, but I can still walk and talk. So that's how my walking tours of Behind the Boulevard came about, of starting at what is the Roosevelt and then coming up and going down. We're in the middle of Crack Alley. This is, if you're not aware of it, the Yucca Corridor is called Crack Alley. It used to be called Rose. And if you go back and you see other things, you can look at other pictures of the building this recreation center here is because of the 94 earthquake, and older buildings were torn down, and so they built the newer stuff. So I've been trying to contact the city. I want them to get to rename this L. Frank Baum Square and get the kids involved in this. So that's one of the things in my back pocket right now.
Well, you mentioned the Roosevelt.
Yes.
How about we head over there right now? All right. Okay, so we are at Orange and Hollywood, the famous Hollywood Roosevelt.
Yep.
And I'll let you know the one thing I know two things about the Hollywood Roosevelt. The Oscars, one of the earliest Oscars was held here.
Technically, as the Academy Awards, these were they had a different name here, but this was the first Oscar. These were the first awards here. Yes.
Beautiful.
So, yes. They were called the Awards of Merit when they were here.
Look, you know the shit. You know it. Also, I heard it's haunted.
Yes. I mean, I know haunting it can be objective or subjective, whichever one of those two words applies here. But there are numerous ghost stories. Do you want? Would you care for some of them? I have a personal one, actually.
Oh.
Yes, this is a me thing. There is the Blossom Room is where they had the first Academy Awards. Now, for those of you who don't know, when you walk through the front door, and sometimes they can be really picky about some of the stuff, so walk straight through on the right-hand side where the archways are the doors to get into the Blossom Room. And usually they're locked or because of an event or something like that. But if you go up the steps that are directly in front of you, which are the steps that Shirley Temple learned how to tap dance with Bojangles Robinson for the movie The Little Colonel, because it matched up that way. So he taught her there how to do that. So if you go up those steps, when you get to the top of the steps and you turn left, just past the elevators, which are on the left-hand side, you're going to see these double doors. Try both of them. That will take you in this little ante room, and then try the next set of doors. And usually one of them is unlocked, which will take you to the balcony that overlooks the Blossom Room, and you can sneak in that way. So one day I was in. Now I don't go anywhere without a camera. I have this little Canon PowerShot. It's a fine camera, but it's not a professional camera by any stretch of imagination. I took the camera in there, and I was in the Blossom Room on the balcony, and I took it, and what I did was this. I had put the flash up, and I took one photograph. I counted the 5, and I took a second photograph. Now, usually whenever I get home, people, do you get any good pictures? I don't know till I get home and I look at them, because I don't look at things, so I shoot photographs by feeling. When I got home, the first photograph, perfectly normal. You see the chandeliers, you see everything, you see the carpet, fine. Second photograph, there were orbs everywhere. Big orbs, little orbs. Now, if you're into orbs, those are the spirits or the souls or whatever they are of people past, that kind of a thing. And my first thought was, I saw the big one. I thought, oh my God, that's that's Georgie Jessel or somebody that had a big ego, Al Jolson, for God's sake. But my first thought was, holy cow, look at all these orbs. And then my second thought was, oh my God, me moving around and the flash going off, this is a fucking dirty room. Because I just figured it's really just the dust when you really get down to it. But that's my own personal experience with this. The other things here, Montgomery Clift used to stay here, and one of my favorite stories about that is a guy was staying here one day, and he woke up and he looked over from his bed, and Montgomery Clift was sitting in a chair across from his bed, and Montgomery Clift was just staring out the window smoking a cigarette. And he said, I didn't feel scared or anything. I do a lot of research. I read thousands of books and all about, so I try and compare stories. But this one I came across a number of times. He said, it didn't scare me or anything. I just saw him, and he was just there smoking a cigarette. And then he just disappeared. And he said it was perfectly fine. Another one, and this is my favorite creepy one is he likes to lie on top of people, apparently. If you're in bed, yes, you'll feel weight on top of you. And a woman was lying in bed one night, and the story goes that she felt her husband cuddle up spooning next to her, and when she cuddled and she turned to be with her husband, she opened her eyes and her husband came walking out of the bathroom, and she freaked out. They went downstairs and they checked out of the room. They had to move rooms. They could not stay there that night. That freaked her out too much.
I feel like people would pay extra for that.
Well, thank you. And people stay here on purpose because of that, and they hope to get. I want to say 1026 is the Montgomery Clift room. I'm not sure, but I believe that's what it is. 1026. Also, Marilyn's mirror is in here. Now, Marilyn's mirror was a mirror that was in 1200, which was Marilyn's room. Marilyn stayed here. She did her first photo shoot on the diving board here for a suntan commercial, things like that. But she stayed here a lot, and room 1200 was a room that she was in, had a mirror in, a full-length mirror. And after she had passed, they were redecorating and things like that. The mirror was down in the lobby. And one day, the story goes that one of the workers was cleaning the mirror, and she saw a woman behind the mirror leaning in to do her makeup, and she turned around and went, "Oh, I'm sorry," and to get out of the way. And when she turned around, there was no one there. And when she turned back, she sees Marilyn Monroe in the mirror doing her makeup. And that's when and it was one of those, if you remember any of the Twilight Zones where you see a mirror and in the background you see like the past, people see that kind of a thing, where they've seen Marilyn in this mirror. It went away for a while because they redid the lobby a couple of times. So it's gone. It's been gone. And then it had been gone for about the last 6 or 7 years. And right before it returned again, which was right before COVID hit, I was bring a group in on a tour, and I happened to see one of the managers. I said, "So I'm just curious as to why did you guys get rid of Marilyn's mirror?" "Well, it's in storage right now." "But you just had this whole redone thing here." "Well, yeah, see, it was causing problems because people were coming in. It was causing a lot of people, and it was just causing too much with people." And I went, and this is what, and I looked at him, I said, "So I want to make sure I understand what you just said. So your newly redone lobby, this mirror was causing too many people to come in to see your newly redone lobby, so you put it in storage." And he looked at me with a straight face and went, "Yes." And I was like, fine. But now it's back. So when you walk up midway through those steps, you'll see the full-length mirror that was Marilyn's mirror, and you can have your picture taken standing there, sitting on the steps, and you'll see it right there. It's about God, it looks like it's almost about 9-10 feet tall. It's a beautiful large mirror.
I'm gonna have to look now.
Oh, yeah. It's really quite cool. Once you know the Shirley Temple story, you can't help but walk up the steps. And then when you walk back down, you start tap dancing down the steps.
You mentioned the diving board on the pool. The last time I was at that pool, I didn't see a diving board.
I don't think there's a diving board there anymore. You'll see photographs of her on a diving board there,
which makes sense. We're in a litigious world now.
Oh my gosh, I didn't think about that. That makes perfect sense, doesn't it?
But anything else from Hollywood Roosevelt before we go somewhere else?
People, just for the knowledge, what history-wise, it opened up 3 days before the Chinese theater did.
Oh.
So it opened up 3 days apart, which made for a hell of a great weekend when you think of it that way. I think that's kind of cool. But if any of you listening to this, you can stay here. It's fun to stay here. I've stayed here a number of times. It's not all that expensive, but it's also a once-in-a-lifetime thing to be able to stay here. So if you have the opportunity, do it, because you're right on Hollywood Boulevard.
One other thing that people don't realize, even if you're a local, is you can go to the pool here. You pay, I think, $20, and you can go to the pool. And if you don't want to go to the pool, the bar is nice, and you don't have to be a guest to be at the bar.
No, you don't. No, it's one of the places, much like something like a Moose and Frank or something. When you walk into it, you automatically have that feeling of old Hollywood, or like the Smokehouse. You walk in, it's like, I know where I am. I'm home. I belong. I have that feel. This is it. It will never lose it. So the reason why I asked you to pull over here is because this little place right here is called the Mediterranean.
We're at 1776 North Sycamore, which is in between Franklin and Hollywood Boulevard on Sycamore.
Yes, and it has two different reasons why I show it to tourists. Okay. One is a rock and roll reason, and the rock and roll reason has to do with just past where the scooters are sitting right there is where Bobby Fuller died. Bobby Fuller, who wrote "I Fought the Law, and the Law Won." His car was parked right there, and what happened was it was about a week or so after it hit it had hit the charts, and he was found dead inside of his car.
No.
Yeah.
Just a couple weeks after that song came out?
Now what happened was he and some friends were in his apartment here. He lived with his mom in his apartment here at the Mediterranean. It wasn't called the Mediterranean at the time. It was called whatever it was called here. But they lived here, and some argument happened, and he walked out of the house. The next morning, he was found here in his car. His hands were bruised. He had bruises on his face, and the car, inside the car, there was about a gallon of gasoline that was opened, some of it was gone, and it was on him, and he had apparently swallowed some of it, and they called it a suicide. No, to this day, it's never been figured out, but supposedly he killed himself by beating himself up and forcing himself to swallow gasoline. So, and it happened after an argument here. Now, that's the one thing that happened here. The other thing that happened here is a thing that it's called the Black Widow murders. And they were her name was Olga Ruderschmidt and Helen Golay, and they were two women who would take in boarders that they would help out. Oh, I'm going to help you, and here, just sign these paper, and no one should help us, and do this kind of thing. And they ended up having 19 life insurance policies and made all this money, and they murdered all these guys.
Old ladies did?
Yeah, these
so like arsenic and old ladies.
That's exactly what it was. It was Hollywood's version of arsenic and old ladies, and they did it. They had 19 insurance policies on these guys for a little over $2 million that they did.
Over what kind of period of time do you remember?
I don't remember the exact time frame. I want to say it was in the 70s though, but I can't remember.
Because I mean, that's a lot of people dying.
It was 2 people, but 19 insurance policies.
And if you
and they both guys died the same way, and they found them a couple blocks apart from each other in alleyways down south of here, off of La Cienega and stuff. I mean, they did the same thing twice, which is just stupid. Don't you learn anything from TV shows?
Well, maybe these, there's a lot of people that don't watch TV.
There you go. Now,
so what's interesting about this Mediterranean apartment complex, it looks very average. There's nothing. I mean, there's some nice palm trees.
There's a little pool right here. It's exactly what you'd expect to find right in the middle of Hollywood like this.
Just typical apartment complex.
Much like what we're looking up ahead of us right up here, the Highland Gardens Hotel, which I think should be our next stop.
Okay, fair enough. So, what do you got about that?
The Highland Gardens Hotel used to be called the Landmark. And aside from the fact, there's a fascinating documentary you can find called Camp Hollywood about people who've lived here for years. Ron Jeremy, I don't even know, he might still live there, but Ron Jeremy.
This is about people who lived in this hotel?
It's called Camp Hollywood. It's about people who still live. I mean, as far as I know, a lot of them still live in this hotel.
And it's interesting. I've never heard of this hotel.
Really? It was called the Landmark for many years. Now it's not, and now it's called the Highland Gardens. And this is where Janis Joplin died of a drug overdose.
No.
Yeah, on October 4th, 1969, Janis Joplin died in room 105 here. This is where I had my 53rd birthday party.
Why?
Because Janis Joplin died in that room, and I love Janis Joplin.
What did you party in the room? Of course. He's looking at me like I'm the crazy one.
We let out masking tape. The shape of her body was actually found. So God. Yes, it was one of the best birthday parties of my life. Yes, it was quite delightful, and a lot of people came because you want to go be in the room with Jana. Now, if you go into the room, and I'll send you the pictures because there's Janis Joplin graffiti everywhere. You open up the door, you open up the bathroom. There's there's lyrics written on all over the closets, everywhere. There's Janis Joplin stuff all over the room.
And the hotel doesn't paint over this. They like it.
No. Part of it is you'll even find my signature in there from the 3 different dates that I stayed there.
How much did it cost you to get this room on your birthday?
I can't remember. It's about $100. It's not.
So was it? They're not.
No,
they're not.
No, they're not gouging you because it's Janet. Oh no.
Good.
It's just it's a room, and I was fine. My girlfriend at the time, she had some creepy things happen to her that night but she's was more into that kind of side. I love Janice. Maybe Janice knows I love her, and she just was like, Brian, you're cool. So.
And what's interesting to me about the fact that they've kept the room going is when Whitney Houston died at the Beverly Hilton.
Yes,
they got rid of that bathroom and made it, I think, just a really big suite.
They did, and they also changed all the room numbers on the floor so that stop people from even standing at the exact. And what I tell people is just go downstairs, find the room below it, and then just go upstairs. You know what room it is. You know where the door is.
And so I guess it's just two different approaches of hotel management. This particular place is embracing.
Has chosen to embrace it, which is people are going to do it anyway if you're into it. So you, in all honesty, you may as well embrace it and make it a reason why people want to. It just makes sense to me.
There's a hotel on Santa Monica Boulevard and La Cienega where Jim Morrison used to be in.
But you see the pictures I have of that.
You've been in that room too?
I stayed there. Of course I did.
But what I like about it is they allow graffiti,
and it continues, and it even continues. Now, one of the closets in Janis's room, they actually put up plexiglass over part of it because it's so old. They don't want anybody to mess up that one of the parts of it. So they've even embraced the history of its own history, which is kind of cool. So yeah, but even in the Jim Morrison thing, yeah, there's and to this day you can still have fresh stuff right there.
Is there a pool there? There's got to be a front. Germans
here. Oh heavens, yes, there's a pool.
So this is kind of a fun hotel.
Oh, and again, you walk out the front door, you're looking right at the Roosevelt at the other end of Hollywood Boulevard. You're literally one block off of Hollywood Boulevard. So it's a marvelous place. You're right next to the Magic Castle, and you're just down from the outpost, so you can go up to Mulholland if you're driving. You're right along. It's just in a perfect spot.
You got any information about the Magic Castle?
I have some things about the Magic Castle.
You need an invitation.
You do have to have an invitation, essentially a quote unquote an invitation
from a magician.
Because you get a card from them. You can actually get a card from them, and then you have to go in. I'm assuming you've been.
No, I don't know any magicians.
Oh. Let's see what I can do about that.
Well, I'm just saying we don't run in each other's circles.
What happens is the room where the guy who had it built, Roland Lane, the guy who had it built, the room where he died is now the room where they have the Houdini seance room, and you can have dinner and you have a seance in that room. That's the room where the guy actually died, first of all. But when you walk into the lobby, yes, you check in, and then you have to turn, and there's a bookcase, and there's a gold owl, and you have to stand in front of the owl, and you have to say the magic words, and his eyes light up, and then the bookcase opens, and you walk in. You have to wear suit and tie. I mean, it's yeah.
Maybe that's another reason I haven't been invited.
And tie are required. The magic show is happy. The cool thing is it's not just the magic shows. It's you're sitting at the bar having a drink, and some guy will just walk up next to you and go, "Hi, pick a card," and he'll just do 5 minutes with just you, just right there, and it's the coolest thing because that's just what they do there. It is supposedly haunted. There's a gentleman who died when he got to the front door. He had a heart attack and died. One of the performers there. A long-time performer from one of them.
And then I heard recently another guy hung himself in there.
Yes, he did. He hung himself. Well, what happened was people were waiting for his show, and it was to begin at say 8:00, 8:10 or whatever, and he didn't come out. And after a couple of minutes, somebody went in to find him, and he had hung himself in a closet just off stage. He was a rope specialist, which is the part, and that's not. I don't say that to make a joke. I said it to be that's fascinating to me. But he did rope tricks and things like that, and he ended up hanging himself. Yes.
The irony.
So yeah, there really is. Yeah.
So another thing I heard about the Magic Castle, trying to get out of the darkness and into some more levity. Is I hear that there is a quote-unquote haunted piano.
Oh, heavens.
Where if you ask for a request, it'll...
Yeah. I really wish I knew how this worked. Honest to God, I have no idea. If you put $1 in the bird cage, the piano will play whatever you want. I have never heard anybody say a song the piano did not know.
Wow.
And sometimes if you're like you give more. I've been with people and somebody said, here we go, zippity doo dah. And she started playing Zippity Doo Dah, for God's sake, just because they said the words, and it's just started playing right there. So either I don't know how she does it, but she's amazing, and it's
better than Siri. If I ask when I ask Siri to play "Blinded by the Light," sometimes I get 2 out of 3 Ain't Bad by Meatloaf.
Oh my God! Yeah, this is better. Yeah, she's better. Maybe this is where Siri can, but yes, yeah, it's definitely better than Siri.
Is it like a player piano where you don't even see anything, you just see the keys move?
Yeah, just like that.
That's awesome. How much approximately does it cost to go to the Magic?
Well, I mean, it's having a nice dinner and things like that, dinner and drinks. I mean, you can get out for 100 and two. I've gotten out of there on a date for 100 and a quarter, 100 and little more than that, including tip.
Fair enough. I just want people to have a ballpark.
Oh, yeah. If you go to their Facebook page, actually, because they've been doing, because of what's happened, they've done a lot of things. You go back, they've done, a lot of shows are online now where you can see things like that. But they have specials, the events, and they have things where you don't have to be a member to come, because they want to regenerate. We're coming back. So you can check it out and people can go in there. Those of you who have not had the experience before the tourists come back and ruin everything, go to the Magic Castle now before everything gets messed up. That's now I mean that in the nicest possible way.
Because, by the way, you give tours to these tourists.
Oh, gosh, yes. Oh, heavens, yes. I could not live without these people. Oh, heavens, yes.
We're trying to go to Musso and Frank, and Brian we're stuck in traffic on Franklin and Orchid, and you mentioned Ashton Kutcher, who I don't care about.
Yeah.
Because he stole my girlfriend, Mila.
Ah, there you go.
And you're telling me about Manson shooting somebody?
Well, yeah, Manson used to live over at the corner where Orchid is, at the northeast corner of Orchid and Franklin. He used to live there in apartment number 306.
It's a white apartment complex now.
There was an apartment building here, what is now the parking lot for the Magic Castle. And there was a guy living here who they needed some money. The Manson family needed some money, so they're going to rip this guy off on a pot deal. And when when Tex Watson ripped him off for like $3,000 worth of pot, this guy, and I wish I could remember the guy's name. He had a delightful name. I mean, he was like one of those big guys, but his name was Pee-wee, one of those kind of things. But anyway, he said, I'm going to go up to that ranch, meaning Spawn. He said, I'm going to go up to that ranch and fucking kill every one of them. And Charlie went and shot this guy.
I thought
only time Charles Manson they know of that ever shot a gun, and he shot anybody, and he shot him with the same blunt line that they used in the Manson murders anyway, so it tied everything all together. In the end, it all came together.
Blunt line, is that a gun?
That's the kind of gun that he was shot, that they killed Sharon Tate with.
I'm a hippie pacifist, so I don't know about your fancy guns.
This is where Dee Dee Ramone died, right there.
6740 Franklin.
His widow still lives there.
Dee Dee was the bass player
whose statue is in Hollywood Forever?
Yes, and so Dee Dee, but Dee Dee's ashes aren't there. Dee Dee's ashes are here in the apartment with the wife. When the wife dies, they're all going to be placed in the. So people go there thinking, oh, it's a beautiful statue of Dee Dee, but Dee Dee's not actually there. His ashes are in the living room with his wife.
And you know what? It's like, it's a fine apartment building, but I would have hoped that the guitar player of the Ramones would have like a real house.
That's a good point. It's
rock and roll just doesn't pay anymore. You a lot longer.
That's the Pretty Woman Hotel where they filmed Pretty Woman.
Okay, we're at 1739 Las Palmas.
And that fire escape right there is the ending of the movie right there, where he meets her in the fire escape right there.
Spoiler alert. And look at this. There's a new building.
Yes, this is all brand new. And it's on the opposite side. When you come into the parking lot of Musso and Frank on the other side here, this is what they built on here. This is called Beetle House. This is a nightclub that's based on Tim Burton movies.
We're still in Las Palmas, really close to Hollywood Boulevard. Now, this Beetle House... Where was the Las Palmas? I guess that Beetle House was the club that Lindsay Lohan, Paris Hilton, all those people used to go to.
That was the Las Palmas there. Yes.
Yes, and now it's all black.
It's just it's.
But like Cobra Snake used to film all these great parties there in the early 2000s.
You kids and your music. That rock and roll you listen.
Believe it or not, they were not there for the music.
Oh, okay.
They were there just to be seen. Oh, it used to be called LAX back in the day.
We're turning here. You see that tattoo parlor across the street there, on the corner. That was the Gold Cup from the Jackson Browne song on the boulevard, down on the boulevard, down at the Golden Cup. That's where you used to pick up male prostitutes.
Jackson Browne used to...
No. Jackson Browne sang about that, but that's Jackson Browne did. No.
So there used to be male hookers on Hollywood Boulevard.
Oh, heavens, yes. Oh, yes.
And so that's what that song is about?
That song is about the male hustlers on Hollywood Boulevard, living down on the boulevard, yeah.
And as we know now, the male prostitutes are on Santa Monica Boulevard.
Are they?
Yes.
Okay.
Santa Monica
I don't
and
drive
Highland.
anymore, so I can't answer that question.
Come on. You said you've lived a life. Okay, so now we're turning left on Cherokee.
We're back on where we started this whole thing, coming from Cherokee. And what we got here is...
Look at all this fencing. What?
well, yes, it's the Musso and Frank parking lot now.
Here, we'll just park
So
right here.
this is the opposite side of that Archer place that you saw, the new building here.
Yeah.
So here we have Musso and Frank opening in 1919. They're opening up another section of it. They're having a private room section that they're adding onto it, which is going to be
They're adding on to
another room onto the
on the west side.
on the east side. Yes.
Oh, really?
So you walk into the front. The front that you walk in now is not the original room anyway. And then the next room is where the bar is. That was the original room.
Now the sign says it's the oldest in Hollywood. Do you agree? Should we not believe the sign?
No, I do. As far as I know, Michelli's is the oldest Italian restaurant, and this, as far as I know, is the actual oldest restaurant. I don't know anything that goes back prior to that.
Michelli's is on Las Palmas and
just south of
so
Hollywood.
super close.
So that's 1949. That's the oldest Italian restaurant, and then this is 19. I don't know if anything.
So maybe the oldest bar is Musso and Frank in 1919.
No, it opened up as a restaurant and bar. I mean, it opened up back then. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't consider this Italian.
Oh heavens, no!
What would you consider it? Just a steakhouse, right? I mean, not just.
More than just a steakhouse.
There you go.
It is on Thursdays. It is the home of the greatest chicken pot pie that God ever created.
What? I love chicken pot pie.
You can find my video on my YouTube channel about the best chicken pot pie in Hollywood. I made a video about chicken pot pie in Hollywood, and this is number one.
Is it large?
Pig and Whistle's number two, but
Pig and Whistle has good chicken pot pie?
Pig and Whistle's excellent chicken pot pie.
This podcast is worth it right now. I didn't know.
Yeah, but the chicken pot pie at Musso and Frank, part of it is the presentation, because they do this whole presentation how they serve it to you. The meat in it, this is a phrase that I use. It's the size of a baby's fist. A chunk of chicken the size of a little baby's fist. It's amazing stuff.
I want that.
Yeah, it is. It's. I don't drink. They're known for their martinis. Beverly gets extra dirty Grey Goose with extra olives.
Do you smoke weed?
Oh yes. Well, it's because of my epilepsy, so it's good for me to do that. Yeah, but I don't.
It's medicine.
I haven't drank. I don't. Yeah, but otherwise, other things. It's not. So it's not just Italian. There's a Southern California fish called sand dabs. This has the best sand dabs I've ever had in my life. They're steaks. Now, people, if you're going to come here and you're going to play tourist for the day, and I encourage all of you, come to Hollywood and be a tourist for a day. But if you come to Musso and Frank, yes, sit at the booth. There's the Charlie Chaplin booth where when you first walk in on the left-hand side, that was Charlie Chaplin's favorite booth. The one next to that was Mary Pickford's favorite booth. At the end of the counter, I always say sit at the counter.
Yes.
If you're at the counter and you're watching them cook, that's the show into itself. But right as you walk in, at the end of the counter, there's marks in the wall because this chair swivel. You'll see marks in the wall. That was Steve McQueen's spot. And he would park his motorcycle outside and he would swivel around to keep an eye on his bike, and it like digs into the wall. So you can still see the marks where Steve McQueen would turn around to look at his motorcycle outside. It still exists there.
He had all the money in the world. Who cares if his motorcycle was stolen?
He really loved that motorcycle. People say, where can I go to see tourists? It's a tourist spot.
No, people say, where can I go to see celebrities?
Well, I'm sorry, celebrities. That's my mind.
No, that's fine.
I mentioned Stan Goldstein, a photographer for Bruce Springsteen. We're sitting in here one day, and I'm sitting across from him at a booth, and he's holding up this menu behind the menu. He says, "Hey, Brian, is Elliot Gould sitting behind me?" And I leaned over and I went, "Oh, hi, Mr. Gould, how are you?" And he goes, "Hi, how are you?" And David Spade comes walking by and just stands there and starts talking to Elliot Gould. I mean, stuff like this. And it literally is perfectly natural. It's become popular now because of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And it's going through a renaissance, if you will. They just got its own star on the Walk of Fame, as a matter of fact.
Which it didn't need a renaissance because it was always cool and everybody always knew. In fact, Charles Bukowski, once he finally made his money, he would drink there all the time.
Yes, yeah. Actually, there was next door what they called the writers' room, and you would have Bukowski or Hemingway and Faulkner and F. Scott Fitzgerald, and they would sit there and just shoot the shit. Faulkner would get up and literally go behind the bar and just make his own drinks. Okay, these are regular stories about the place. Yeah. So, and then that room is what became the room now that you the main dining room now, and things moved around, so they're adding another room to it.
I also like that the dudes who work there, a lot of them have worked there for years and years.
Oh heavens!
And they're dressed up real classy. And nice.
It is exactly the class you expect. But if you get in there, you don't leave, because it is family. They took care of their people here. We donated. People donated to help cover costs, to make sure they didn't lose anybody. But you have people, bartenders that work there, recently passed away. They've been there for 30 years, and they knew everybody. You walk in, they know what you want. It's automatically right there. Things like that. So yeah, it's number one in everything. Yeah.
You mentioned Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I was speaking to a bunch of location managers and location scouts about Musso and Frank, and why is it that we have seen a few movies that were shot there, but for the way that it looks, you would expect a lot more movies, because nothing, you can't recreate that. That's real.
That's an excellent point.
And their answer to me was, they don't like to shut down ever. And so if you're going to shoot a movie like this, even if you're Quentin Tarantino, the other side of the restaurant's going to still be open. So you have to deal with us, is basically their point of view.
When you're that good, you can make your own rules, and that's
right.
That's the way it works. I love that.
Okay, anything else? Well, first of all...
Oh, one more thing about the place. If you're going to come in here, you can either walk in through the front door, and you'll see right there, go in the back door. When you're walking through the back door, you will pass by, when you go through the what do you call those doors?
Double doors?
Double doors, yeah. On your right-hand side, right as you enter the restaurant, is the oldest phone booth in Hollywood. It was the first phone booth in Hollywood. There's still a phone in it, but it's not the original phone. But it is the original phone booth, and it's the first phone booth in Hollywood. And it's still there. It's got a plaque for it and all that kind of stuff.
So if I have enough quarters, I can call my mom?
Oh, there you go. Sure. I mean, but I think it's kind of neat that they still celebrate.
Okay, I want to go to the Knickerbocker Hotel now.
Knickerbocker away.
All right. We can't even get to the hotel because you tell me that we're about to cross where the father of Hollywood lived. This is a neighborhood podcast about Hollywood. Tell me about the father of Hollywood.
The father of Hollywood, his name was Hobart Whitley. Hobart Johnstone Whitley.
So hold on. So there's a Hobart Street and there's a Whitley Street.
Yes.
Both named after him.
There's also a Grace that's named after his daughter.
Oh.
And Emmett, which is named after his son. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. So yes, but
tell me about Hobart.
Well, Hobart Whitley worked for the railroad, and he created about 200 towns in the United States, coming from the Oklahoma over. As the railroad extended, he created towns, and then would move on. And he lived in Los Angeles and came up here, and he and his wife fell very much in love with the area here, and they created what ended up becoming Hollywood. Was there? It's not just Ada Wilcox. Everybody knows the story of Ada Wilcox.
No, they don't.
Oh, well, Ada Wilcox is the mother of Hollywood.
Okay.
And between the two of them, they each owned one side of it. It became an entire town, essentially. But Whitley Heights is an area up on a hill that still has all the old homes from the 1920s, where Marion Davies and everybody, and Hobart's original houses and things like that. So I'd like to go up there with you.
He found one of the highest peaks at the time that people were living in.
He built all the homes up there. Oh yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So he was more than just a railroad guy. He
was a creator. He built towns. He built homes. He was a.
Should I turn right on Argyle?
Where are we going?
We're trying to go to the.
It's on Ivar, for God's sake. Okay.
Did I pass it?
No, I don't. I get confused where I am. Okay. Oh, that's the Hollywood Tower. Yeah, it's that way. Because we're on this side of.
I did pass it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, you can go that way.
All right. So tell me a little bit more. Tell me about the mother of Hollywood.
Ada Wilcox. Ada Wilcox was she was a woman who married Harvey Wilcox from Ohio. They were from Ohio.
Did they meet out here?
No, they met. Now he was much older than her, and she married somebody who was older than her, and she lost a child, and then again came out here and found land and took it over, and then they create. Did you ever watch old movies? And in old movies they say, "You're not going to make it, kid. You're going back to Hicksville." Right? Ada Wilcox, the mother of Hollywood, was from Hicksville, Ohio. That's where that term came from. It was a reference to Mrs. Wilcox herself.
Wow.
Going back to yes, because the woman, and so she's known as the mother. Hobart Whitley is the father of Hollywood, essentially.
Wow. Okay, so here we are.
So here is the Knickerbocker. Now, in doing research on the Knickerbocker, if anyone that does research, you're going to run into story after story after story, right, wrong, contradicting the hell out of each other, and it's. When I first moved here, in fact, you can just get in the shade right there. Yeah. Yep. When I first moved here, and I was giving tours, I found out that the person that taught me tours lied about almost everything.
No, was it at least entertaining?
No. Yeah. Oh gosh, yes.
If you're gonna lie, at least make it fun.
Oh no. Because he talked about it like he was actually there, for God's sake, and that's what made it. I mean, it was like, you. Now I give tours and I'm very emotional because I'm really into this, but his was completely different, I guess. But anyway, and he would tell the main story I always heard was because Valentino had a house that was up in Whitley Heights.
Okay.
And Valentino would get on his horse and ride down here and tie his horse up and go sit in the bar and have drinks here.
Was that normal? Did people ride horses back then?
Oh, yeah, that was normal. The fact that Valentino did that was not normal because when this opened, Valentino had already been dead for 3 years. So that kind of... But here, again, research. This place was built in 1923.
Okay.
Or 26, or 7, or 8. It depends on which story you read. The plant was originally designed by a guy named E.M. Fraser.
Okay.
And as far as I've been able to find out, it's the only building in Hollywood that he designed. I've seen no other references of this man.
Well,
and it was 1923 when it was actually originally started.
Well, I got to tell you, it's not that impressive as far as architecture goes.
Originally, it was a really beautiful dark brown Spanish, had this really Spanish look to it. It's been renovated 3 times, twice by Paul Revere Williams, who got rid of the original Spanish look and actually made it look the way it looks now.
Oh, so he also won. Did Elvis ever stay here?
Yes, Elvis did stay here. Elvis stayed here when he made the movie.
He was filming it. Why would he stay here? Was there was RCA Studios around here?
Well, RCA was down the street. In fact, that's the building down there. But I mean, I didn't equate it with any of that. It was just where celebrities and everybody stayed. I mean, this was the place. This was at the time. This was all kinds of people stayed here. It was a very important place to stay. Yeah.
I also heard that there's a tie with Houdini for this movie.
Now, people like to say that Houdini stayed here. He didn't live here, but he did stay here numerous times when he was in things like that. And when he died, he made an arrangement with Bess, his wife. And the arrangement was that you will have a seance, no more, no less, 10 years. So on the anniversary of my death, we will have a seance. And it's not always at the same spot. It would be at different places.
In the hotel?
No, different places.
Oh.
During life. The last one was here. People tend to think every one of them happened here on the roof. No, the last one was here on the roof. And it was on the roof on the 10th anniversary of his death. And
one question about that roof. Was this roof available for people to hang? Like, is it cool to be on the roof?
From what I understand, yes, there's a beautiful picture of Elvis up there, as a matter of fact. Just find a really cool picture online of Elvis sitting up there. So, I mean, if you live here, I guess you can have access to it, I would imagine.
Okay.
Yeah. But they had a table set up, and they had guests, and they had on the table, in the middle of the table, was there was a trumpet, tambourine, there were bells, there were all kinds of things, there were things to fly, and it was an effort to, if his spirit is here, make yourself known. Now, they did have a secret word that was supposedly just between them, and from what I understand, that word was believe. If believe ended up either whispered in her ear or somehow came, then she would know that that Houdini came back from whatever. But apparently, no, that did not happen. But what did happen, interestingly enough, on that one time, that final date, it did rain. There was a clap, apparently a clap of thunder and some rain. And from what I understand, and this sounds hokey as hell, on the roof of the hotel.
Only on the roof.
It didn't rain anywhere. There was no sort of rain happening, but it rained up there. They got rained on, apparently, and the belief is that that's Houdini's way of saying, we're done, see you later, I'm out of here, if you believe that kind of thing. But supposedly it rained only there on top of the roof, yes.
I want to believe this.
I would love, that's one of those things I don't know how I believe about that, but I would want that one to be absolutely true.
I want to believe that Houdini is up in heaven, and he tells God or one of the angels, look, I need to tell my wife I made it. And the angel is like, we ain't got telephones up here. You can't Well, can I ring the tambourine? Can I like do something?
No, you can't touch it. You're a ghost.
I can't. Yeah, you can't do anything. And then finally, some
You
other
have no form. That's
right.
That's an
You're just a
excellent
spirit.
point. Oh my God.
So I want to believe that some other angel's like, Psst, Houdini. I know a guy that can make it
I
rain.
love the way you think. I love this. This is.
Well, again, if you're going to make up something, it may as well be a good story.
Well, I know, as long as it's not golden showers.
Okay, hold on. I got one other question for you about the Knickerbocker.
Yes.
I'm a huge Nirvana fan. Are you too? You're looking at me like I'm crazy. You're lost with Nirvana.
Yeah,
Fine.
yeah.
Nirvana has a song about Francis Farmer.
Oh, did they? Oh,
And it's on their last
I'll have
album.
to listen to it.
I'll play it for you. It's their final album,
Uh-huh.
and it's called Francis Farmer Will Have Her Revenge on Seattle.
Why Seattle?
Because Nirvana's from Seattle.
Oh, that's why. Okay.
But I heard that Francis Farmer, who was a famous actress at the time, was staying at the Knickerbocker, and for one reason or another,
Well, Frances had problems. She was in love with a director who promised her that he'd leave his wife and didn't. That was the beginning of a spiral down that included a lot of alcohol. And she was her own person. You know, she was the bad girl. She was the part of what was known as the Lucky Seven. Which was a group from, I think it was Paramount. Marsha Hunt was the only one that really anything happened, and Marsha Hunt got accused of being a communist, for God's sake. But all the rest, nothing. They were eventually called the Unlucky Seven, is what they were actually called. But yeah, but she was the bad girl. She smoked. She she did whatever she wanted to do.
Why were they originally called the Lucky Seven?
Because they were handpicked to be like, this is the next generation of, these are the best that we have, and they were going to and
All women?
yeah.
So they were all pretty, probably.
Oh, yeah. And again, Marsha Hunt was the only one that anybody even remembers. Francis Farmer because of what happened to Francis Farmer. Marsha Hunt because she was accused of being a communist. And the rest of them, it was one of the things you put all your eggs in one basket. And so that's how they got the nickname the Unlucky Seven.
Okay, so Francis was staying at this
Staying
hotel.
staying here with her mom. And she had she'd been arrested for DUI. More than once, and they came here. She didn't show up for court. Not court for meeting for probation, and she was hammered. She was arguing. She was in the shower. They wrapped her up in a shower curtain. She said, or she'd gotten out of the shower. She had just, all I saw was, you can see she has stockings on. Otherwise, as far as I know, she didn't have anything else on. But she was hammered. They wrapped her up in a shower curtain and they dragged her out of her apartment and they brought her through here. People watching this happen, they brought her through the lobby and they took her to a sanitarium where she either had a frontal lobotomy or things like that. And there's different stories about what may have happened to her after that.
Well, first of all, they couldn't just dry her off and put clothes on her? A dress?
They literally wrapped a shower curtain around her and dragged her kicking and screaming. As one of the newspaper reporters, she did not go quietly.
Good for
she
her.
Was, I don't know. Oh, absolutely. Are you kidding? Don't run my life. Even if I'm ruining it myself, don't you run my life.
Were sanitariums a normal thing back then?
Yeah,
which are kind of
you could, and it didn't even take much. As a husband, you could say, "Oh, there's something with my wife," and she'd be off to the sanitarium for God's sake.
Wow.
Oh yeah, it was not too difficult.
Did Hollywood have any sanitariums?
Actually, in Hollywood itself,
because I knew there was one in Santa Monica where Roy Disney was.
That's the only one that the closest one that I knew of was the one in Santa Monica.
So maybe that's where she was.
That might have been
where she went. So they gave her a frontal lobotomy.
Yeah.
And
her life was just, she never went back to being. I mean, she.
And I
she
hear
was a shell of herself. I mean, yeah, you don't go back. You don't come back from that kind of crap.
And so I hear when they dragged her out of here half naked, it was quite a spectacle.
Oh yes, it was. Oh yeah. The news reports of it are fascinating to read, and you can see some of the pictures of it and things like that. Like I said, the reporter said that's why he said she did not go quietly. It was quite a sight. We've said it's a retirement home.
Yeah.
Not just a retirement home, but it's mostly retirees and that kind of thing. And what is the nightclub here, the All-Star Cafe, where Marilyn Monroe supposedly haunts the mirror. Marilyn Monroe haunts 8 bathrooms in Hollywood. Either Marilyn Monroe had a really small bladder or they're all fake stories. But yeah, so she wants the bathroom in here and there's a mirror in here. But these people eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner, these retirees, in what is now a old haunted nightclub, apparently. That's why I'd love to go in there, just to hang out in there sometime. Oh, can I tell you one more story about this place? I want to tell you about Speck.
Where's Speck?
Speck is a dog. The guy who ran the place had an English setter named Speck, and he taught Speck would push the button for the elevator. Speck would let the tourists, the people get on first, then Speck would get on. Then Speck would get off, let the people get off, and Speck rang for room service. Speck had run of the entire hotel basically, and the dog's name was Speck, and people came here just to see Speck because the dog ran the place essentially for the owner.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was a dog named Speck. I love that. I just love that kind of stuff.
First of all, where can people contact you?
People can contact me. I'll do the basics. You can find me on Instagram at Donnelly Wood, Donnelly Wood, Donnelly Wood 56. That's me on Instagram. I'm on.
Why 56?
Oh, that's the year I was born.
Oh, look at that.
That's the only way I can remember. So there's that. You can find me you can email me at B as in boy, BRIK. D as in dog, DON 1956 at gmail.com.
Great.
It's the BRI from Brian, the K from Kenneth, and the DON from Donnelly and 1956.
I'll also put this on the website too.
Okay,
so it's easy.
So anybody, you can contact me. And one of the things I'm trying to do is I give walking tours on the boulevard. I also do crime scene tours if somebody wants to drive around because I can't. But I'm trying to hook up with one of the independents here with them so that they drive a tour bus and I can give my old tour the way that I need to. But it's mostly dead stuff. It's not just... I like doing the history more than I like doing the dead stuff.
But I imagine if a family of 4 from Ohio wants you for a couple hours and they're like, we've got little kids who might not know about these old timers. Do you got anything more current? Oh,
heavens, yes. You can even just on the boulevard, you've got all kinds of current things. But in riding around and in doing, yes, there's. I don't like the fact that people feel left out in certain things, so I try and include them. I do tours for school kids. I mean, I've done literally school kid groups anyway.
Now, you used to work with dearly departed tours?
Yes.
Did you give that to the kids? Do the kids want to know about the dead stuff?
High school kids. Oh, heavens, yes. Yeah. They're kind of surprised by some of the photographs, like when you see the Black Dahlia lying there, the photographs like that, and you would show them in the books, yes. But again, my goal in even that stuff, people know what they think they know. So my goal is like yours. It's like myth busting. Here's what you think you know, but here's the actual story. No, that didn't happen the way it did, or that kind of thing. And that's I like a tour full of what I call aha moments when people go, oh, that kind of a thing where you're making them realize something that because they read Hollywood Babylon.
Nobody can see you roll your eyes.
I'm sorry.
That's
podcast.
Right. So people shouldn't read Hollywood Babylon.
No, on the contrary, Hollywood Babylon is what gets most people into Hollywood history. Read it, then do your own research and find out how much of it is not correct. But read it as a basis so you have other things. In doing my own research if I'm doing a tour and somebody says, I want to specifically see this, I will go heavily into it and I'll find contradictory things all over the place. So you have to be able to tell both sides because one side is true.
Well, one thing I liked about what you just told us about the Roosevelt and Marilyn Monroe is there's so many Marilyn Monroe stories, just like there's a lot of Frank Sinatra stories in LA. And I just tune them all out because I just assume most of them aren't true until I meet somebody like you who I trust. And so I'll listen to
a lot of research.
I'll listen to your Marilyn Monroe story because it's true.
I do. And again, that's how I've gotten the reputation that I've gotten, because I do try and as much. I try and be as completely honest as possible. And if I don't know something, I'm the first one to admit it, for God's sake. If somebody says, no, I know this for a fact, then I will find out and I will correct myself. I've done that numerous times. I love what I do and I love talking about it. And that's the difference. There's a tour guide that gives facts and there's a tour guide that lives facts. And I love this stuff, and I could tell the same story over and over in the same day 100 times, and with the same because it's just how I am, and I'm lucky to have the life I have.
You never get bored of Hollywood?
Not one single bit.
What did you do during COVID? Tour guides or tours?
Well, I still go for walks every day. I go for a walk on. I call it the loop, where I walk down towards Gower, down to Sunset, and back up and around, and I walk all up the whole area around.
But
here.
did you miss being with the people?
Yes, I still do. I found out that a month and a half ago was my breaking point. I have to go back to work. It's a must for me now. It's not even. I mean, yes, for all of us going through financial no, it's a mental. I'm going to go nuts if I don't start giving tours again. And I really, and that's why, like I said the other day, walking down the street, 2 different times on my walk, I met 2 different groups of people in front of the Warner Theater where Carol Burnett used to work, and told them the story about Carol Burnett working there and why her star is there. Completely random, but it felt so good to be able to, and to have that look and the feedback of somebody go, oh, thank you, and their eyes wide. When you tell somebody that wants to hear something, a story, because they're interested. I always said I should have been a teacher. Well, I am. I teach Hollywood history and geography. And that's what makes me so fucking lucky. And I get to meet people like you who also do the same thing, and we get to share it with the world. And that's why we live in the bucket list. People come here because they listen to this, and they go, I want to go see what Tony talked about.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we'll see you in the next neighborhood.
Oh, please. Absolutely.
Here in LA is produced by myself, Tony Pierce, and the miraculous and handsome Jordan Katz. Editing, mixing, and music supervision by Jordan Katz. Songs by Orgone and Jordan Katz. We put out new episodes every Monday and Thursday, and we have a detailed corresponding blog post that goes with each interview that can be found at hereinla.com. Thanks to Elise Thompson of LA Beat, which can be found at thelosangelesbeat.com. Elise introduced us to Brian. Thank you! Special thanks to Cindy for creating the logo. Special thanks to Jen Adams for inspiring me to do this in Kim and Ours' backyard. Special shout out to Jordan for joining forces with me and really making this happen. Also, much love to Jason D for inspiring me to get the .com. Go to hereinla.com to find Brian's information, photos, and links, and book a tour with him when you're in town. You're going to love it.